Live from the sidelines and straight into your headphones, this is The Playbook, Sideline Stories and Sports Talk. I'm your host, Blair Villarreal, bringing you the inside scoop, epic moments, and conversations with athletes, broadcasters, and the amazing people who make game day happen. Get ready. It's time to break down the plays and open up the playbook. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to this first episode of The Playbook, Sideline Stories and Sports Talk. I am Blair, and I am your host for this sports podcast. And first off, before we kind of get into a little bit of an introduction about me, if you think this is going to be your typical sports podcast, just going over sports and all things sports, let's think again. I have my own little twist on it. We call it The Playbook, and first off, I am an aspiring sports broadcaster. I am a recent master's graduate from the University of the Incarnate Word, coming off of a year of experience on ESPN Plus as the color analyst and sideline reporter for UIW Athletics, and we'll get into more of that experience here in a little bit. But my idea with this podcast is to take y'all in a deeper point of view perspective of broadcasting, sports broadcasting, my views and takes on various sports topics and major events coming up. Then also, if for any aspiring sports broadcasters like myself want to maybe get into this industry, maybe we're going to be talking to a couple professionals throughout each of the different episodes that will be published about different industries, whether if it's social media, broadcasting, athletes' perspective, all that kind of thing. And so just stay tuned for some really fun episodes coming up, and we'll get to talk to some pretty cool people. Some of them are my friends, some of them are colleagues, some of them are very well seasoned professionals in this industry, and so I'm really excited to take y'all through further and further about that. And just take it as a playbook for broadcasters, just like what skills and tips and tricks you want to take into going into this industry, everything like that. And so without further ado, let's take a little bit of an intro about me. So a little bit about me, I am a aspiring sports broadcaster. Like I mentioned, I am fairly new to this industry. I have had a couple years worth of experience. I've had experience working behind the scenes as a production assistant, graduate assistant for the University of the Incarnate Word. So I got to work behind the scenes for all of our ESPN Plus broadcasts. And then the semester after I got that role, I got to fill in the role as a broadcasting graduate assistant for UIW Athletics. So I got to be on the opposite side of our broadcast. So basically what I am wanting to do is be in front of a camera and talking about sports to all my sports enthusiasts out there. And so how did I get there? Well, I am a proud San Antonio resident. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I grew up watching a lot of sports, grew up playing a lot of sports, especially watching my favorite team, San Antonio Spurs. Go Spurs, go. We'll definitely be talking about my Spurs here in a few episodes. I'm a big tennis player. I'm a big tennis fan. I love watching professional tennis. I played high school tennis for 4 years. I played it pretty much all of my life, ever since I was about 6 years old. My dad was the one who helped me pick up my first racket. He played college tennis at Pepperdine. He also played at my high school that I went to, which is Alma Heights High School. And, I wanted to kind of stick with it. I played all 4 years of high school tennis. And then for 4 years, I played college tennis at the Division III level at Shriner University in Kerrville, Texas, which I absolutely loved that school. Definitely talk a lot of Shriner stuff in this podcast as well. And it was a place where I really got to find myself as a person, a student, a tennis player, and even everything else in between. I met a lot of my best friends up there. I still talk to a lot of them on the daily, whether if it's from being in various organizations I was in, roommates, on the tennis team, everything like that. And then while being at Shriner and playing college tennis and studying communications. So I got my degree in communication studies and I minored in sport communication. I was also a part of various organizations on campus. I was a university ambassador. I was an SGA, our student activities board. I've served all 4 years on our Student Athlete Advisory Committee, or as some people call it, SAC. I served as the vice president of SAC my senior year, and that was truly a great experience. I even got to attend the NCAA convention my senior year when it was held in San Antonio, and that was a really great experience, getting to meet various athletes across the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference, and that was a really cool experience. So I graduated from there in 2023, and then I made my way over to UIW. So I came home to continue my graduate studies. I got my master's in communication arts, and that was where my career kind of took the next step, right? And I really got to showcase who I am as a broadcaster, showcase my various leadership skills I developed at Shriner, bringing them over to UIW, and that's where my broadcasting career really kind of got started. So I was a sports anchor for UIW TV, which was our student-run news station. Did that for my first semester. Second semester, I got my job as a video production GA with the athletic department. Got to work behind the scenes for all of our broadcasts on ESPN Plus. So I got to run graphics, do a little bit of producing, technical directing, as well as operating cameras, managing the replay system, as well as our sound and audio. Fast forward to the fall of 2024, really the summer of 2024, I was anticipating on going into my second semester working in production, but then my boss at the time reached out to me about the broadcasting job opening up because our two previous broadcasters, who are two of my biggest mentors, have graduated, and they have moved on to bigger things after they graduated with their masters. And my boss told me to apply, and I took a shot at it. I got interviewed, and a few days later I got the call that I was going to be the official broadcaster for UIW athletics, in which that first few months I was in that role, I was the main broadcaster. I was the only one doing play-by-play, putting together my notes, being on air for about a few hours. Starting with soccer season, I learned soccer all the way from scratch. And keep in mind, I had a lot of friends at Shriner that played soccer, so I got to watch some of their games, but I had to kind of take a little bit of a refresher and learn a little bit more about the game of soccer. Learned a lot from that, and that's really where I took my first step into becoming a sports broadcaster, and it truly was an experience of a lifetime. So I was the main play-by-play person for first 3 months I was in the position. I called all of our men's and women's soccer games, our volleyball games, as well as doing sideline reporting for our football team, which our football team did really good last season. They won the Southland Conference Championship. They got a spot in the NCAA FCS playoffs. They made it all the way to the quarterfinal round. They were undefeated at home, undefeated in conference, which that was absolutely incredible to watch. I was even there whenever Jalen Waltall did his iconic viral headstand touchdown celebration against Houston Christian during homecoming weekend, which that was really cool to witness. And then in late October, I switched over to my current role, color analyst, when my new broadcast partner came in, and I got it took a little bit of a weight off my shoulders just because I was literally trying to manage everything at once with volleyball and soccer and everything else. Just having someone in the booth with me was really, really fun, and I got to learn a lot, especially doing basketball and baseball and softball in the spring, as well as covering the Southland Conference men's and women's golf championships in that spring as well. And so I really got to learn a lot from conducting interviews, pregame, postgame, and on air with the various coaches we got to talk to, both at UIW and the opposing coaches we got to meet with every week before each game. And it was definitely a really great experience. As someone who wants to go into that profession, into that industry, it was really good to get that year's worth of experience under my belt. And so we fast forward to May of 2025, I graduated with my master's from UIW, and here we are. I am still figuring out of what is next to come for my career, and over the summer is what we transition into post-grad life, applying for jobs, trying to figure out what to do with my life, and I had the idea of starting a podcast. I've talked to various broadcasters over the years that I've been in this industry saying, figure out ways to get reps. Broadcasting is all about reps. And I heard one of the broadcasters I met say, like, what if it's starting a podcast, a YouTube channel? And I'm like, you know what? I want to start a podcast. And so I've done a little bit of digging. I did a little bit of research, and I decided to come up with a podcast of my own, and I entitled it The Playbook. And I thought that was a really catchy title for everybody that's tuning in, and I'm really excited to see where this takes me, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear more about my story and the stories that I'm going to be telling, whether if it's about the various guests I'm going to be bringing on, whether if it's about various sporting events or many major sports coming on, or anything going into the broadcasting industry, going into sports in general, and being a woman in sports myself, from being a former collegiate athlete to a former college broadcaster for a small mid-major Division I school. It's been a journey, and I'm very excited for what's coming up next and where this podcast is going to take me, and I'm really excited to be sharing it with you guys. Now you're probably wondering, Blair, why broadcasting? Why sports broadcasting? Well, I remember when I was little, I was trying to think about like what I wanted to be when I grew up, and like what I wanted to do when I'm older, what I wanted to go to college to study. And as a kid, I had this dream of being a baker. I watched all these like baking shows. I was like obsessed with baking, and I wanted to open my own bakery someday. But then that dream kind of switched over in high school. Whenever I played tennis, I played all sports growing up, in middle school, elementary school, you name it. I mean, I played basketball, I played volleyball, played a little bit of soccer for a year, I played volleyball, I played softball, and I wanted to stick with tennis, and was watching the Spurs growing up and playing tennis most of my life. I wanted to do something in sports, and I love talking in front of people. I love being in front of a mic, talking to a crowd, and talking about sports is my thing. And when it came to high school, I took that first step of being on the yearbook staff. I served as a sports writer for the Alma Heights High School, Ole Miss is what they call the yearbook at Alma Heights. And I wrote various stories on our different sports teams. I even wrote a story on my own tennis team, which was pretty cool. I even got to take a lot of pictures for our team, especially when we went to state that year in College Station. So I got to do a little bit of that. Did that for 2 years. I was a sports writer my junior year, and then my senior year I was selected as an co-editor-in-chief. So I was a part of the yearbook staff for 2 years, got to kind of oversee the sports department. But then I also discovered MuleTube. So basically that was our morning announcements. I got to do that for 2 years, doing behind the scenes work, being an anchor, and that was where I loved being in front of a camera. I've had both of my parents tell me, Blair, how are you nervous? Are you nervous at all? You are so good in front of a camera. I honestly don't know where it came from. I remember being in a play in first grade, second grade. I was so stage fright. I could not look out into the audience. I had to look down at my feet. I could not look at people. I don't know what that was. But then as I started getting older, I was in front of a camera. I talked about sports, and I've come to realize this is the career for me, and I've thrived in this environment for so long, whether it was doing morning announcements, doing social media, a trainer for various organizations I did, and even being a broadcaster during my time at UIW. I've come to realize that my passion has grown so big over the past few years, and that is the job, and that is the industry that I am currently working towards. And I feel like I'm in a good spot. I'm gaining a lot of experience. I'm learning a lot. I'm always watching tape. I'm putting reels together. I'm always watching old tape from my time at UIW, watching some of my favorite sports broadcasters I watch, like Aaron Andrews, Nicole Moss, Pat McAfee, Dan Weiss, even Jacob Toby and Sean Elliott of the Spurs, which I admire every single one of them. Even Jim Nantz, who I even got to meet at the NCAA convention in 2023. I learned so much from watching them on TV, and it's helped me develop my game as a broadcaster. And, you know, this is a dream come true that I've been able to have so many opportunities over the past couple of years. And even coming up with this podcast is a great way for me to share my story and share my love of sports with all of my sports fans out there. And I'm really excited to see what the next step is. So now we're going to get into the layout of the playbook and what you guys should expect coming from future episodes. So basically each episode is going to have a featured topic, whether if it's a major event going on in the sports industry, a sports league, whether it's NFL season starting up, college football, NBA, Spurs, you name it. We're going to talk about that. We're even going to talk about various topics in the industry, talk about various stories behind my experiences being on the sidelines, behind the mic, and even talking to various guests about their stories and their point of view on various different topics. So some of those guests will feature current and former athletes. Some of these people I've been able to become friends with over the past couple of years, former colleagues, people I've worked with over the past couple of years. And these people can range from current, former athletes, like I've mentioned, broadcasters, social media creatives, coaches, or just plain straight up sports fans, or even aspiring sports broadcasters like myself. I'm going to be talking to various people on this show and hope to give you guys an extra perspective and to make it a little bit more fun. And also we're going to ask them some various questions about their background, everything like that. And then also ask them, what's in your playbook? Now it can be various life lessons that you've learned being on a team, on the field, or on the court, behind the mic, anything like that. Just like, what are some life tips or some advice you put in your playbook that you want to share to you guys out there? And also just like getting to know you questions about like favorite sports teams, everything like that. Well, that's the final whistle of the playbook, but don't you worry, we have a lot of fun projects, future episodes, and fun topics to come soon, and I'm really excited to be able to share it with you guys, and hope you all tune in next week to the Playbook Sideline Stories and Sports Talk. I'm your host, Blair Villarreal, and we'll see you next week.